Hello and a very warm welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'll show you how I made this beautiful turtleneck dress. It's really beautiful and I know you will love to try it out. If you have not subscribed to my channel, do so now so you don't miss out on any of my videos, and ensure to turn on the notification bell to get notified each time I post a new video. So let's go straight into the video. I already have a video of the basic bodice pattern. I'll just attach the link to the video on the description of this video so you can have a look at that after watching this one. So straight to the point, we wouldn't waste time on drafting the basic bodice pattern again. But quickly, let me just explain what each point is. So this is the front neckline, this is the shoulder slope, here is the armhole, this is the bust line, here is the waistline, this is our apex, which is the bust point, okay, and these are our darts. This pattern is for the back piece, and here is the back neckline, the shoulder slope, the armhole, the bust point, and the darts for the back pattern. So now, to make this top, we're going to simply alter the shoulder and the armhole of this pattern, okay. As for the neckline, we're going to use 3 inches width and 3 inches depth for the front neckline. Then for the back neckline is 3 inches width and 1 inch depth. This is because the neckline circumference is 16 inches. So this neckline will work out perfectly for it. If you're working with a neckline that has that is wider than 16 inches or a little bit below 16 inches, do well to alter this neckline to suit what you're making, okay. So on shoulder, I'm going to derive the midpoint of this shoulder line. So the entire shoulder is 6 inches and the midpoint is 3 inches. I'm going to mark that at this point. Then for the armhole depth as well, from the shoulder slope, I'm going to measure 3 inches as well. So I'll draw a diagonal line to connect these 2 points. That's the only alteration we're doing on this pattern, okay. Then for the back neckline as well, we're going to derive the same midpoint, which is 3 inches, and we'll measure 3 inches also on the armhole. Then we'll link the 2 points. So now we'll cut this out. Just note that there is no seam allowance on this pattern, so when cutting on fabric, we're going to add all the necessary seam allowance. So let's just go ahead and cut out this pattern. So here are the pattern for the front and the back bodies. Next, we're going to be measuring out the turtleneck or the collar part of this dress. To draw the collar of this dress, I've marked a straight line on another piece of pattern paper. Then I'm going to measure this neckline from this midpoint to the shoulder point, like so. So I got 5¼ inches. I'm going to apply that on this point. I'll apply it on the straight line. So this is 5¼ I'll mark it. Then I'll label it as center front. Then I'll also measure the back neckline, okay. So this is it. I got 3.5 inches. I'm going to also apply that 3.5 inches on the other side of this line from the midpoint, okay. So this is 3.5 inches. Apply that there. I will label it center back, okay. Now from the center front, I will slant this point a little bit by 1 inch, okay. So I'll make a point at 1 inch, then I'll curve it into the midpoint I marked earlier. So I'm using the curved part of my ruler to achieve this. Now this is what I have. Then for the center back as well, I'm going to determine the length I want my collar to be. Okay, so if you want your collar to be up to 2 inches, it's up to you. If you want it shorter than that, it's up to you. So I'm using 1.5 inches for the length of my collar. So I've marked 1.5 inches here. I'm going to connect that point to my center back point. So next I'm going to blend this point up. I'm going to make my curve to align at this point from the 1.5 inch I measured. So I'll apply 1.5 inch all through the entire length of this pattern, from the center back to the center front point. Okay, now I'll connect it to this point. So this is the line where we marked the center front. This is the straight line, but we're not going to allow it to be straight at this point because we want the turtleneck to align properly on the neck. So instead of leaving it straight, we're going to slant it a little bit by ½ inch. So I'm measuring ½ inch inwards at this point. So I'll slant this point to align to the edge of my center front. Okay, so I'm slanting this point by ½ inch, and I hope you can see what I've done. So this is it. I've just slanted this point by ½ inch. So I'm going to now join up this point to form my 1.5 inch I marked for my collar length. So I'm done drafting my collar pattern. So this is one side of my collar. I'm going to cut this out, then I'll place it on my fabric. So the center back will be cut on fold if you are making a garment and you're leaving the front open. So I'm going to cut the center front on fold. Okay, so I'll write a cut on fold, cut on fold at this point. So this will be the back. Okay, so while cutting, I will add some seam allowance to this point, to the back neckline, like ½ inch seam allowance, because that's the point I'm going to join to the neckline of the dress. Okay, so it will align properly with the zipper allowance that I'm going to be using for this pattern. So now we'll just cut this out. So here's my pattern for the collar, and this is my front and back bodice pattern. So for the sleeves of this dress, I've just marked out my normal sleeves. Then I'll just measure 3 inches. Remember the 3 inches we took away from the shoulder line? So that's what I've marked at this point. I'll just link it up with the actual sleeve. Okay, that's the armhole point, and we're going to be cutting this out, and that's how we'll sew it to the dress. Okay, so this is the one we're going to cut out. Also, you determine the length you want your sleeves to be and just mark that at this point. So that's all about the sleeve. It's just a normal sleeve minus the 3 inches you took away from the armhole. Okay, so we'll cut this out now. So I've cut each of this pattern on the fabric, and for the collar I've cut with ½ inch or 0.25 seam allowance on the top and the bottom of the collar. Then I've also cut with my seam allowance at the center back. Then the center front was cut on fold, and I cut 2 pieces of this pattern. Okay, so there are 2 pieces. One will be for the main fabric and one will be for the facing of the collar. Then for the back pattern, I cut with 1.5 inch seam allowance to the side and 1 inch zipper allowance. Then I've added ½ inch seam allowance at every other side. Then for the front pattern, I cut on fold and 1.5 inch seam allowance to the side, then ½ inch to every other part of the pattern. Then for the sleeves, I cut with ½ inch seam allowance all round, then 1.5 inch hemming allowance at this part of the sleeve. I've cut my lining piece for each of this pattern, and I've also ironed on my interfacing on the main fabric of the collar piece. So I'm going to be sewing these points now. I'll align these two and sew this point. Then I'll understitch and give it a good press. Align, pin and stitch the front and back shoulders. So I've stitched the front and the back shoulders together. Then I'll do same on the lining piece. Once I've joined the shoulders of the main fabric and the lining, I'll just align the main fabric and the lining. I'll align the neckline and the back, all the parts together like this. Okay. Then I will sew it around, leaving out the sides and the waistline. I've sewn the shoulders, the cold shoulder, that's the V opening of our armhole, and I've also sewn the zipper allowance. I've torn them out and done under stitch. Then at this point I have also folded and aligned the point where I will insert my darts. Okay, so I've folded it this point. I used the measurements on the pattern to fold this carefully. Now the next thing I've done is to align the both patterns. Align the both patterns, mark the points where the darts go, then slant them by ½ inch as we've done on the pattern. I've also done same on the front piece. Okay, I've marked them out. Next we're going to be inserting our darts at the front and the back panels. Now to insert the collar, I've derived the midpoint and I will go ahead to align the inner piece to the inner part of the neckline, of the front neckline. Okay, so I've done that and I'll pin it in place. Then align it also at the shoulder point and pin it in place. So ensure it flows through that way, then pin it in place. Then to the back as well, can pin it in place. So you do that all around the neckline like so, and pin it. Then you sew it around. After sewing, you now turn it over to the other side. I've done my pleats all around the waistline from the zipper allowance. So I've done it all around. The next thing I'll do is to attach my zipper. I have a video on how to fix an invisible zipper. I'll attach the link to that video on the description of this one, so you can always refer to that if you need guide on how to fix the invisible zipper. So after fixing the invisible zipper and doing and closing the back seam, I'll just hem the dress. So this is how the dress looks like. Thank you so much for watching this video. Please subscribe to my channel if you have not done so, and ensure to give this video a thumbs up. I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.